Hi,
Hi.
welcome to our channel.
Welcome back.
So we're excited to have you here today, and this is part one of a two-part video that we want to film. Just because the topic is going to naturally expand, but it's a topic really close to both of our hearts that's kind of brought us through many different parts of our own lives.
They are kind of intertwined, so that's why we didn't want the video to last 2 hours, and so we decided to introduce them together and then make a two-part video to create more focus on each aspect. And what are those topics for the next two videos?
So the first one is, like, what is the feeling of home, and what does home mean to you? How to feel at home.
And the next one, which I feel that I have a really difficult time to dissecate, it's how do we find our tribe? How do we feel ourselves at home within the community?
And that whole journey, the whole journey of feeling like you belong. And I guess for me, I see the difference between the two, because you can feel at home in yourself and wherever you go, and you may not find that tribe, especially if you're in a transition or something has changed, or even if you've just discovered that you want a different, more from life in some way, which I've definitely experienced. So yeah, it's more about the social role and how that feeling of home expands into feeling at home together.
All right, are we ready to dive in? All right. So, what's home for you, Jordan?
Home for me still feels pretty like, I guess I see why it's hard to separate from the social thing, because home for me, when I think of the word home, especially because we're traveling and we live far away from our families, so that home for me, I guess I have two feelings of home within me. There's a feeling of home with like my family, where it's like that's where I come from, that's my home, and I do feel like I have a really good family, so it's like I feel that sensation of like love and I'm home with my mama, and
That you enjoy coming back over and over through time.
Yeah. But the home where I feel like personally I'm belonging actually doesn't feel like it's there with them, which is horrible, but I have a great relationship with my parents.
Meaning that you want to visit them, but you wouldn't want to settle and live your life there anymore.
Yeah. So home for me, I think the first time I really felt, I guess that's not the first time, but one of the strongest times in my life where I felt really at home in myself was when I was traveling and moving so quickly from place to place. And I guess it's because it kind of gave me that reflection point that the whole external was changing, and inside myself I just felt so good, no matter what challenges or this, and just that listening to my inner voice was really easy.
So changing physical place didn't change the fact that this feeling of home remained.
And I think part of it had to do with like defining some sort of familiarity within myself. It wasn't just coming from like, I mean, there's a sense of adventure, like this openness for like newness to come in, but there was also a very rooted like familiarity that I had, such as like I know what was really filling me up. And when I was moving more through hostels and stuff, like I would be like, oh, I can't wait to get home at the end of the day and do yin yoga and just put my headphones in. There was these things that became familiar to me that was like a refuge, like a little sanctuary.
So for people who are like feeling they're not home yet and have this really strong desire, what do you feel that changed the most between not feeling home and the first time it happened? How did you discover what changed within yourself if it was not a physical place?
I have such a good answer for this, because it was really clear for me. My feeling of not feeling at home on myself was so prevalent for so long. Like, it was super intense, not feeling at home in me. Just wherever I went, like, it was my relationship with myself, it didn't feel homey. And it began when I started kind of like in IFS, internal family systems. When I first heard about it, it started to put to words something I had already experienced, which was when I started to kind of take that third person perspective with myself and the ways that I would treat myself, I started to develop a better relationship. And when I first started to feel at home on myself was when I started saying to myself, like, I'm gonna romance myself. And so I would take myself on, like, little dates. Like, and so it started with that. It was, like, small. Sometimes it was, like, oh, I'm gonna go, like, work. But, oh, you know what would make me, like, if someone was flirting me, right?
Make yourself pretty.
No. Actually, just more the treating thing. It wasn't exactly how I'd make myself pretty. Sometimes I did that, sometimes I didn't. But it was I'm gonna pick up my favorite drink on the way. And not that everything needs to be materialistic. It was also like, I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna smell this flower here, because I would love, like, a lover to be like, hey, stop, smell the flowers, like, pause, feel the sunshine, or, like, put on a good song and just dance 1 minute before you start working. And so it started as just this thing of, like, romance yourself. And I felt really, like, kind of lost before, and it shifted to, like, this whole, like, we have this, like, independent woman movement going around, right? Which is, like, I don't need a man to buy me this, I can buy it myself. And, like, what about the non-material aspect of that? Right?
Do you feel you could translate it into slowing down from living from conditioning of the mind and starting to learn how to live from feeling inner desire? Having no agenda, but more like experiencing life how it appears in your feeling.
I think I was starting to make steps towards that. There was definitely still conditioning playing out. So it was like the conditioning also supported this process. Mm-hmm. Because I didn't need, like, a ice lemonade to go do this or to stop. And, like, it was a little bit intentional at first. Like, it wasn't just this fluid, like, just go with my feeling. It was a kind of forced at first. Yeah.
Beautiful.
I'm curious for you. What was your, like, I think we've talked about, I'm not sure if we've shared these videos yet, of, like, the night and day of, like, having language and not having language. Do you have, like, a clear difference in your life of when you felt at home and when you didn't?
Yeah. For me, I would label it as me before behaving accordingly to what society was expecting me to perform. Either when I was younger, a good student, and which I was, but didn't feel right. I was just good in the system that was already forcefully imposed to me, and I just thought that performing in this system was the way to go if you could qualify. And meaning that you just have good grade, go up in the social ladder, either in education and eventually at work and being promoted, bigger company, more responsibility, etc. And even if it fulfilled what society was expecting from me, either society or culture, meaning my parents, it didn't fulfill a deeper meaning within myself. I feel more empty. Like, this is really redundant of people slowly progressing toward awakening, is that you don't feel right, and that there's nothing wrong to work 9 to 5 and having children and wanting to buy cars and houses. Only if it feels right, though. And if it doesn't feel right, it's like buying shoes. There's, like, most of the shoes probably fit like 80% of people, and there's a small minority where you can go to buy shoes and none of them fit you right, and then you don't know that you can walk barefoot. but you force yourself to fit in a shoes that's not meant for you, and you just think that there's no other choice to live otherwise. And that's where suffering is created, is to fit in something. You're different within yourself, and you try to fit because you don't know that being different is an option. And there's people that we discovered this inner difference at much earlier age, and me, I started manifesting, expressing my difference. The first memory I have is when I was 17.
Which is actually pretty young.
It's pretty young. I mean, I'm not comparing myself, but that's when my first, eureka, that I was really different, is I already started working on my own at age 13, and which is illegal where I'm from, but somehow I just wanted money because my parents were not really rich, and I wanted to actually buy clothes that were branded based on my conditioning. And so from 13 to 17, I worked with my dad. Actually, I worked from 13 to 15 with my dad, and after independently. The legal age to work in Canada is 16. And I already started buying Christmas present and all kind of present from 13 when I started earning my own money. But at 17, I just turned 17, and I remember clearly I entered a shopping mall with a list of people I wanted to buy a present and some couple $100 that I had in my pocket. And I had a first moment of awakening. Meaning that I opened the door to the giant mall. It was 7th floor, all open, and I could see a couple hundred shop from bottom to top in every wall. And I froze. What I saw on the first week of December was just people running everywhere on the shopping mall. Chaos. And I'm talking, this is like 1997. So it's a while ago. And the not buying Christmas at that time was not even a concept that I was aware or knew anyone that was aware of. So there was no reference point for me to feel that it was possible to be different. I knew nobody, and I didn't know the concept that not buying Christmas or unless you were really poor. And so what happened is that in this mall at that moment, I froze for like an hour or two, and I just didn't want to be part of this craziness. Something changed fundamentally within myself, and I turned around, went back home, and I just knew that I didn't want to be part of this madness anymore. And just after I turned 17, I called all my friends. That was 2-3 weeks before Christmas, by the way. And I called all my friends to tell them individually to not buy me any Christmas present for that Christmas, because I would not buy any Christmas present to them for the rest of my life. And I said the same thing to my family. And the first, even if they didn't tell me in my face, I could feel within themselves that most of them thought that I became cheap. Same with my family. My parents are the only one that keep buying me presents for like maybe 2-3 years, and then they give up. And I could feel the pressure, but the pressure would just last between, like, usually just in December, where people are all excited and then inviting you for like this gift exchange, and it's like, no, I'm not participating. And but the discomfort is like you're in front of like 30, 40, 50 people, and they all exchanging gifts, and you're the only one. I felt really awkward, but it's an awkwardness that lasts just an evening.
No one thinks about it ever again.
And the thing is that there's a lot of pressure. It's more common today to be different, but back then I knew nobody, so I was really uncomfortable for the moment that happened. But before that, I didn't have to stress to like what I'm gonna buy, how much money I'm gonna spend, who I'm gonna give a gift, because I realized when I was 17 that since I started buying Christmas present at 13, I was only having more friends, and I was earning obviously more money, but I could feel the pressure growing, and I say, with time I'm only gonna get more friends, and I could feel that I was not, and I never was for buying random presents. So I was always wanting to buy something unique, something special, and the pressure was building up. And when I decided to stay away from it, it was a moment of stress. And what I feel that I feel home is to stop what is an automatic behavior that I was pre-programmed without knowing it, and start living from how I feel within myself. And that was the first event where I knew that I was different. So home, it's not about the location, a physical place, either I have friend or no friend. It's really like I am myself. And if I am myself, then the location, the who I'm interacting with, either it's somebody I just met or somebody I knew for decades, then this would feel home. It starts with being authentic with myself. Being authentic with myself and being authentic in expressing this authenticity toward others that I'm encountered with. Before I was just wearing a mask. So home is really within myself. It's feeling okay to impersonate this feeling that I have. If it doesn't feel right, then I don't want to have anything to do with it. I have no judgment toward people who are consuming and giving Christmas present or whatever. But when you feel different, and for me this was the first moment. And by the way, as like I started buying Christmas present, but I started buying present for every occasion, Valentine, birthday, or whatever, Easter. Every present I just stopped. I start slowing down consumption drastically. Not because even like the difficult part. Also, it's not about feeling different. It's to assume this difference in the face of adversity toward friends and family, which knew you the same way for a certain time, and which you were not comfortable to perform. And when you decide to assume yourself, there will be repercussion or resistance or challenge. And to face adversity is what set back most people to impersonate authenticity. And to help people who haven't crossed the threshold, I can guarantee you that it's only difficult the first time, and it becomes easier as you the first time is always the hardest in everything, and eventually get easier. And eventually, after 2-3 years, what gave me faith is eventually at 19 years old, I was in college and I found a newspaper, and the title of an article was titled "Voluntarily Simple," and it started, "You don't buy Christmas present anymore. You don't do this. You don't do that. Therefore, you are."
Your name is Tee.
But what happened in my mind is that it was the first time I had a concept that was labeling how I felt inside. Before that, I didn't know any label that could be associated to the feeling I felt inside, and I knew the people who was labeling me as cheap was not accurate. But I didn't know what I was. And when I read that, I was like, wow, I don't know who's those people, I don't know the whole thing, but I know that there's people like me in the world, and I felt great for the full time. And it gave me the courage to assume this difference, this authenticity in the face of adversity, even if I was not fully sure of what it meant within myself. I didn't know where it's gonna bring me to stop buying rubbish present. I just felt that if I felt different, then there's nothing to be ashamed of to express that difference toward other. And this for me is what it's grounding me in being home and feeling home. Yes.
Okay, so now I really see why these connect so well for you.
Exactly.
And what I'm gonna say, since I think we're at 18 minutes now, is that come to part 2 for the second part.
Yes.
And I have a question that I'm gonna ask him, and in your own timing, when everything is open for you to tune in, we will welcome you there.
All right. You want a coconut to crack this?
Yeah.
Thank you for watching.
watching.
And because it matters for the growth of our channel, if you did like the video, please
Like, subscribe, and comment down below any suggestions that you have, because we love connecting with you, or any topics you'd like us to talk about.
And if you're interested to follow us on the individual level, we both have our individual channel. Mine is here and there's here. Ciao!
Bye.